Connecting the Dots, Reliving Northwoods History with Kerry Bloedorn.
Trout Lake. This 117-foot deep, clear, cold body of water is about 2 miles south of Boulder Junction in northern Wisconsin. Nestled in the Northern Highland American Legion State Forest, it is home to Trout Lake Station, the birthplace of Wisconsin forestry. The old-growth forests that made up the Northwoods had existed untouched for thousands of years and were thought to contain an inexhaustible amount of timber, but they were quickly cut by the logging boom of the 1800s. Westward expansion at the time developed an insatiable need for lumber. 99% of the virgin pinery would be cut before 1900, leaving a scarred and clear-cut landscape covered in stumps and piles of dry, mangled branches, a proverbial tinderbox. The great forests of the Northwoods were thought destined to become farmland for the next wave of pioneers to the area. It was in this time that 32-year-old Edward Merriam Griffith was hired by the state of Wisconsin to become its first forester. Griffith had spent his senior year of college in Germany, learning about forestry practices, and he was ready to put his knowledge to use in the state of Wisconsin. In 1910, Griffith chose Trout Lake as the site of the state's new forestry headquarters and developed Wisconsin's first tree nursery. Tree seedling beds were built at the Trout Lake facility. The seedlings were to rebuild the state's decimated forests. In its first year, 192,000 seedlings were planted at Trout Lake, as well as at a nearby site located on a peninsula at Star Lake. Ironically, it was formerly used as a horse pasture for a sawmill. Griffith also began instituting programs for training forest rangers and assisted in the state's purchase of tracts of forest reserves in northern Wisconsin. Over the course of the next 4 years, thousands of young trees were sent from the Trout Lake Nursery to plantations around the state. In 1914, it was producing 500,000 seedlings. Forest firefighting prevention techniques were also pioneered at Trout Lake, with Wisconsin's new foresters leading the charge. In June of 1915, early aviator Jack Vilas would take Griffith on a flight in his Curtiss float plane, dubbed the Flying Boat. Griffith was highly impressed at how easily fires could be spotted from the air. This would mark the first time in history that a plane was used to detect and report fires, a technique that still continues today. Later in 1915, partly due to pushback in revitalizing Wisconsin's forests instead of keeping them available for farming, the state Supreme Court ruled Wisconsin's forestry legislation unconstitutional, which essentially shut down the budding forestry department. A dismayed Griffith left Wisconsin, but he had planted seeds, both actually and figuratively, that would continue to grow. Farming in the Northwoods was hard, and public opinion started to come around to the scientific ideas that Griffith had advocated for during his tenure. The Northwoods' sandy soils with short growing season was better suited for growing trees, not traditional farming. In 1924, the state adopted a forestry amendment to its constitution, thereby continuing the work Griffith had begun. The tree nursery program continued at Trout Lake until 1963, producing millions of trees and helping to restore Wisconsin's forests. Over the decades, the Northern Highland American Legion State Forest has become a popular site for the study of forestry and limnology, with unrivaled access to the state's woodlands and inland waterways. Some of the research that's been carried on from Trout Lake is the study of managed and unmanaged forests. The plantation at Star Lake has 2 sections which show the positive aspects of a well-managed forest. If done properly, the woods of Wisconsin can benefit its ecology, recreation, and its robust forest products industry. Today, the Trout Lake Forestry Headquarters carries on the tradition and stewardship of preserving and protecting the state's beautiful forests. That all started right here at Trout Lake more than 100 years ago. I'm Kerry Bloedorn, and this is Connecting the Dots, Reliving Northwoods History on Newswatch 12.
Connecting the Dots, Reliving Northwoods History with Kerry Bloedorn.
Thank you for watching Connecting the Dots on WJFW. If you have any Northwoods history you'd like to see covered on this program, feel free to send me a message on my Facebook page, Kerry Bloedorn, Northwoods Historian, or email me at northwoodshistorian@gmail.com.